Hey sports fans, we're back, and this time we're here to talk about a trade that is sure to shake up the entire conference and send shockwaves through the NFL. And that trade is Julio Jones being dealt from the Atlanta Falcons to the Arizona Cardinals. We all saw DeAndre Hopkins lobbying on social media to bring the two-time All-Pro to the desert to join the likes of him and Kyler Murray in Cliff Kingsbury's high-powered offense, and now with Julio Jones seemingly on his way to Arizona, things couldn't get any hotter for the Cardinals. But before we dive into the potential trade scenarios and what they will do for the Falcons, the Cardinals, and all the teams that miss out on the Julio Jones sweepstakes, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on this channel. All done? Alright, let's do this. As Jack Nicholson famously said to Tom Cruise in the movie A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. And if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan holding on to the hopes that one of the best players to ever wear a Falcons jersey won't be on the move this offseason, now may be a good time to look away. Losing a superstar is never easy, and while many of the Falcons faithful had been holding on to hope that Jones will be staying in town despite of all the speculations, until this week nobody's heard the man speak on his desire to leave Atlanta. Well, insert Fox's own Shannon Sharpe, who found the truth during a live broadcast of the show Undisputed, when he called up Julio and finally got confirmation that Julio wants out of there, with Julio saying he's out of there. Since the news broke, the list of teams lining up to be the next suitor is longer than your favorite bar or club on a pre-COVID Saturday night. It doesn't help the Falcons' case that many of these teams, including the Arizona Cardinals, are a more desirable landing spot than the Falcons, with the only hot team in Atlanta now being the Atlanta Hawks. So why the departure, you ask? The Atlanta Falcons have gone from a team with one of the league's hotter offenses and a hot destination for free agents to a team that could potentially be a dumpster fire the moment Julio Jones is dealt to another team. If you don't think Julio Jones has been seeing the writing on the wall, then you haven't been paying attention to the Cold War going on between Julio and the Falcons brass this offseason. After an abysmal 2020 season that saw the Falcons finish 4-12, including several close contests early on in the season, where the defense couldn't close out games when the offense gave them a comfortable lead including back-to-back historic losses to the Cowboys after blowing a 20-point lead, and then against the Bears after letting a 16-point fourth-quarter lead slip away. To put things in perspective, in the last 2 decades, no team has blown a multiple 15-point fourth-quarter lead in a single season, but the Falcons did it in back-to-back games. They also blew similar leads to the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Detroit Lions, in which the team had 95% probabilities of winning, only to blow the game and leave fans and anyone watching in disbelief. Where are we going to go with all of this, you ask? Defense. The Falcons couldn't get off the field and close out any of the games because the defense that ranked close to dead last in every category that mattered continued to collapse and fail an offense that was firing on all cylinders and still losing. So if you're Julio Jones, imagine the frustration. Also keep in mind, 5 years prior, the Falcons took a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl into the final stages of the game and had one of the most historic collapses anyone's ever seen on any stage. Every time a microphone was put in Julio's face, he has been saying the right things, but he wore frustration on the sideline, and when asked about his future with the organization, gave the equivalent of "we'll see." Well, thanks to Shannon Sharpe, we'll finally see, and it doesn't look good if you're a Falcons supporter. Could you really blame Julio Jones for wanting out? Imagine being one of the most dominant players at your position for your entire career and getting to the championship game once and only going backwards since failing to get past the divisional round in the last 5 years, and in 2020 finished last in their division. As mentioned earlier, DeAndre Hopkins took it upon himself to recruit his friend Julio Jones to Arizona and posted a picture of himself along Jones at the Pro Bowl to his Twitter and Instagram accounts, which had some of the league's best players hoping the union of the two best receivers wouldn't happen, while others were imagining what if. The Kyler Murray-led Cardinals already feature a mega-elite DeAndre Hopkins and drafted another game-breaker in Purdue wide receiver Rondell Moore. Adding Julio Jones would give them an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver and another toy for Kyler to play with. Not to mention 2 alphas in Jones and Hopkins that are still in their primes and cause problems on their own for any defensive back. Newly acquired James Conner helped make a nice 1-2 punch at running back with presumed starter Chase Edmonds, and more importantly, J.J. Watt came over from the Texans to help fortify the defense that ranked 13th in total defense last year. Unlike the Falcons, the Cardinals spent their first-round pick on defense and drafted a stud out of Tulsa in linebacker Zaven Collins, and even selected more in the second, spent their next 4 picks on the defensive side of the ball. The Cardinals are a team built to win now, and if Julio decides to join the Cardinals, the team becomes an instant Super Bowl contender. Julio had been reportedly shopped around before the draft for a first-round pick, but none of the teams bid on the 32-year-old, and now the Falcons have reportedly dropped their asking price to a second-rounder. The compensation for one of this generation's best talents seems like a steal, and the only thing that could really give the Arizona Cardinals or other teams any pause is the cap hit that's over $15 million, with only 9 teams currently having enough cap space without restriction deals to fit the star into their plans. Teams restructure deals all the time, so it's not to say that a front office couldn't do the type of financial wizardry we hear all about this time, with salaries being converted to bonuses and taking the front end of the deal and putting it at the end of a player's contract. So in reality, any team that really wants Julio can certainly come in and get him. The last hurdle for teams, of course, is that Jones wants to go to a contender. So if you're a team with cap space, but it doesn't look like you'll be adding a Lombardi to your trophy space, you may be crossed off Julio's wish list even though he's on yours. So when may this deal happen, you ask? A crucial date in the NFL calendar to look out for is June 1st, because any player that is cut or traded before this date will have their contract accelerated to the current year, which affects the 2021 season's cap, while anything after June 1st will affect the 2022 season. With the 2022 season projected to have a much higher cap, teams are more likely to do deals like Julio's when it's less of a financial burden on their franchise. So with all that being said, basically the time is now for any team interested in Julio's services to pounce on this opportunity, and similar to Randy Moss being dealt to the Patriots from the Raiders all those years ago, look for Julio to have that kind of impact on any team that he's dealt to, especially if it's one that needs a little firepower to get over the playoff hump. Alright, sports fans, that's it for our time on Julio Jones and his trade to the Arizona Cardinals. Let us know what you think about the potential Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins pairing, and if this deal would make the Cardinals the favorites in the NFC and or the entire league. As always, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, do me a favor and click that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of our content, and you might as well hit that bell while you're at it to get a notification whenever another video drops. Until next time, sports fans.